Good, and good afternoon everyone. Welcome. Taupō District Council September meeting. August meeting, sorry, jumped ahead of the game. August meeting. Welcome to Councillors and Deputy Mayor and members of the public and members of the press. If there's anyone there, and executive over on my left hand side. Lovely to see you all on this beautiful, beautiful Tuesday in early spring. Is we spring yet or not? No, can't be too far away, but anyway. If we could just be all upstanding for the karakia to get us underway. Tue ke te Māori o te whenua. Tue ki te mana o te tangata. Just mention, if I could have a minute's silence please for the passing of Mr. Alec Wilson. Mr. Alec Wilson Senior, well-known face, even though he's from Rotorua. He's a well-known landowner in the district, the main one being Rangatira E Trust. Alec was a former Maori All Black as well. And a visitor to these lands many times, and many conversations with him. So if we could just be have a minute's silence please for Mr. Alec Wilson from Rotorua. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda this afternoon we have apologies, and I'd just like to welcome online audience, correct?
Just acknowledging that Councillor Rankin's just a few minutes away.
A few minutes away, okay. And we have Councillor Karen Fletcher online, and Kirsty is an apology today. Correct? Yeah. Could I have a mover for those apologies, please? Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Seconded by Councillor Lachlan. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Right. Confirmation of minutes. That was held on the 31st of July, 2025. Any clarification on those minutes or any points of... Do you want me to do that first? Yeah, cool. Okay, I'll move the minutes and then I'll go to conflicts. Yeah. Is someone happy to move the minutes? Cool. Thank you, Councillor Lachlan, and seconded by Councillor Leonard. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against, carried. Conflicts of interest pertaining to any of the items today. Is there any conflicts of interest? No? Silence? Good. Okay, so 5.1. Approval to notify plan changes 44 to 49 to the Taupō District Plan. Hilary, good afternoon. Kia ora. Kia ora, and lovely to see you ladies. Right, Plan 44 to 49.
Yes, thank you. I've got a few notes here if you'll just bear with me while I speak to those please. We're in a little bit of a state of flux, I guess, with government changes in legislation, so I'd just like to have a little bit of a talk through those. So just stepping back a little bit, we've almost beaten the government to it a little bit, I think, in that back in 2020 we stepped away from a comprehensive district plan review. So rather than overhauling our entire plan, as we're required to do every 10 years, we decided to instead focus on the parts of the plan that needed updating in order to remove barriers for development, increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the plan. So that's what we've been working to do over the past sort of 5 years or so. Just in terms of, obviously we did our first bundle, and this is bundle 2, and this has been under development for a couple of years now. We first met with you in 2023 in May, with a subsequent workshop in June 2024. In October 2024, we brought the bulk of the plan changes to you in combination with the future development strategy, and they were subsequently consulted on as a combination package at the end of 2024 and into 2025. And we finally presented you the plan changes following that consultation in May this year. So what's changed since then is that we've had the Resource Management Consenting and Other System Changes Amendment Act come into force. It's also known as the Plan Stop Amendment. It's sort of taken us a little bit to get our heads around this. The initial rhetoric from the government was that all plan changes would be stopping under this amendment. However, it's not quite as clear cut as that. There are a range of exemptions that are either automatic or can be sought from the government within the next 90 days. And in particular, around packages or plan changes that align with the government priorities. We've sat with the Ministry for the Environment yesterday, actually, and their big direction in terms of what that government priority would be is the Going for Housing Growth discussion document, which is one of the foundation documents that will direct the future resource management system. So they want us to keep growing and supplying for growth. So the current batch of plan changes that we're presenting to you is essentially a housing intensification and associated infrastructure package of plan changes. Every single one of these plan changes either allows for intensification with our residential environment or provides the associated infrastructure that we need to meet that increased intensification. We've obviously recently been through the review of our future development strategy, and as you know, through the conversation on that, Taupō's geography, our energy generation base, and the land ownership around Taupō does create challenges for our future growth. Looking at our future greenfield development areas is a challenge that we will have to overcome in the next few years. So a direct outcome of the future development strategy was that we needed to be looking at intensification to meet some of that residential growth that we're going to have in the coming years. So that was a direct explicit reference that we needed to be looking at that through the residential plan change. So plan changes 44 to 48, I'll just put 49 aside for now. 49 is the minor correction, so that basically tidies up a few things that aren't correct since the last lot of plan changes in our conversion to national planning standards. But the other 4 plan changes all allow for intensification and the required community and network infrastructure that is necessary to service that increased intensity. So the advice from the government is that we're not quite sure what the new framework will look like, and they have signalled that it's going to be fast. RMA change is really fast, but anyway, we'll see what happens with that. But we do know that the new framework is going to look at making housing intensification and development easier, and we do know at best the legislation will not be in until the end of 2026. However, this is just the legislation, so we'll have a new act, hopefully, by the end of next year, but we will still continue to operate under our existing plan until we have created a new plan under that legislation. So there's a significant transition period where we're still going to be stuck with what we've got. Under the last act, the MBEA, which was the replacement RMA with the Labour government, that transition period was signalled for 6 to 10 years. So that would we be stuck with the current plan for another 6 years after the new Act came in. Hopefully it might be a bit quicker under this new under the new Act that the National Government is proposing. However, there still will be a lag period where we'll be operating under our existing plan. Put simply, if we do not progress these plan changes now, we will be constraining development and associated infrastructure, imposing additional consenting requirements and costs on our community for an undetermined period of time until our new plan is in place. This also assumes that there will be no more legislative U-turns from the government. So, otherwise, I'll take as read and obviously happy to take any questions. I did just note that Shaney has added to your package yesterday an amendment to the residential plan change section 32. There's a noise overlay map that is added, which goes with the state highways. We did have that in your package already with Plan Change 46, the open spaces plan change, but it needed to be duplicated also for Plan Change 44. So that has been added to your package, hopefully, and I see most of you've got that tabled anyway.
Lovely, thanks Hilary. Okay, thank you for the explanation regarding the central government's proposal on this. Right, any questions of Hilary? Straightforward. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, through the chair, I've got one or two. Are we just going to ask questions? Okay, the whole thing. Okay. Well, I'll start with the Māori purpose zones, because that was something we haven't had big discussions on, any discussions on, really. I know there was a 5-minute discussion in a workshop in June, which a few of us were there, I wasn't. I'm just quite surprised at the, well, I call it political or bureaucratic naivety or arrogance that this just gets thrown in there along with the rest. And that's not as if, that's not to say I'm opposed to Māori land getting developed. I just want it to be the best way for it to be done. And I've done my little bit of research. ChatGPT is quite handy for this sort of thing. Other councils have looked at other options as well as Māori purpose zones, and a majority of them do pick Māori purpose zones, and they are, yes, I've worked that out, but there are other things they can do as well, and it's not exclusively that. So, question then, practicable options is what I'm asking about. The ones I can see, fast-track consent process, planning overlays, development contributions, relief or deferral, and this new emerging consent regime does apparently have a provision for Taupo-Kaingaroa development. So, and then there's another question of, I mean, there were a lot of assumptions that this isn't going to get kiboshed, but have we even asked the Minister this specific question about Māori purpose zones, whether it's appropriate to proceed? I know we're assuming it is, we're guessing it is, but so yeah, there's a few questions in there, but yeah.
Through the chair, I will try and work through those questions. So the Māori purpose zone is a zone that's prescribed under the National Planning Standards, which is a government framework that was, until a few weeks ago, under the same Plan Stop amendment, was mandatory for councils to put our plan into the National Planning Standards format, which we've done. And under that National Planning Standard format, there are a menu of zones that we should use, and we cannot use zones that are outside that menu. Māori purpose zone is one of those zones. So that's where we started from. This discussion has been going on for, it's not new, it's been going on for a number of years. Under the RMA, under Part 2, we have an additional requirement to provide for Māori land and the relationship that the landowners have with that land. So there's a specific clause in the RMA that says we need to understand that relationship and allow for for that to continue. Our strategic directions, which is the plan change, a plan change from the last bundle, has a specific policy in there to provide for development on Māori land. So this hasn't come out of the blue. It's been directed both under the RMA and under our own district plan adopted by this council to look at appropriate development on Māori land. The difference between Māori land and other land types is that often Māori land is held in multiple title. And then when this is applied under our planning system, it means that they come up against rules and barriers that wouldn't apply under a piece of general title. So usually Māori-owned land is unable to be subdivided, and therefore it can't operate in the same way that general title does. The other aspect is that often Māori land has multiple partitions. And so the way our framework is set up, for example, is that we usually say you are allowed 1 or 2 buildings per allotment. And so on a piece of Māori land, which either may have multiple partitions or it may be one large title, that doesn't actually work for owners, often multiple owners, who may want to put in Papakainga marae, have a little bit of a commercial activity that supports that. So it's not about, it's about land tenure that this supports. I don't know if I got all the questions there.
Oh, well, I'll just jump in there. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but they're not mandatory. We don't have to do them. We don't have to, as far as I'm concerned, we don't have to do them. We can do other things. These are not obligatory.
Yeah, we have investigated other options too. I just wanted to add to the point that you made about the NES for Papakainga. That is one option that's being considered. However, that relates specifically to housing, and it doesn't encompass the broader range of activities that landowners might wish to establish on Māori land, such as kohangareo or marae or other purposes. Papakainga is quite a narrow land use activity.
Okay. Have you actually asked? Did I get an answer? Have you actually asked the minister if it is directly these multi-purpose zones? We should be progressing with this now.
We have a request in with the minister right at this moment, and we did ask if there was any opportunity for that to be received by today, but obviously they've got a few things on. So we've got a request in about the likelihood of the entire package being able to be exempt with the minister at the moment. And the ministry has suggested that you check in on that before you put in a formal application for exemption.
Well, I mean, I've still got to throw in there, especially on the back of the JMA carry on with we have not been presented with this as, I mean, we're getting presented with it now to sign off amongst a bundle of whole of other stuff. I mean, we've had a virtual month of not much stuff on the calendar. It's not as if we wouldn't have had time to explore this, evaluate it, discuss it further, because I know other councils have done that. I've seen the documents. They've got a document where they've explored all the options and gone through them and weighed them up, and they specifically decided to do multi-purpose zones for their purposes. But we haven't. We're just going for it. We're just one size fits all. Well, as far as maybe you guys have evaluated and checked it all out, but I haven't heard about it, and that's what the Local Government Act is about. For decisions like this being made, I'm not trying to lecture you, but being presented with all practicable options, and we just seem to be getting presented with one.
Okay.
Through the chair,
Councillor-
I do
oh,
have
do you wanna answer
just a
that?
quick
Yep.
answer. Is that we're operating under the Resource Management Act here, under the plan changes, not the Local Government Act. The Resource Management Act sets out section 32, where we are required to have an evaluation report that assesses all the costs and benefits and the alternatives. And if you read the full section 32 for the multi-purpose zone, you'll find that a full evaluation of alternatives has been completed under there.
Auxiliary. Councillor Shepherd and then Councillor Leonard.
Just for the sake of clarity, I think. So we are approving in principle potentially today, and then this bundle will go to the minister. The minister may or may not approve that, and then it is intended to go out to consult with the public on these plan changes. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. So we'll have to put an application in. They've given us a template, and the approval today is subject to approval from the government, and they've said they may approve entirely or they can approve in part. So we'll just have to wait for that decision to come back, and then we will notify under the first schedule of the RMA.
And subject to public consultation, presumably, as well. Well, obviously, that'll come after the fact, will it?
Yes, sorry, notifying under the first schedule means that we then notify or publicly notify the entire bundle, right. And there's a period of formal consultation, or 2 periods of formal consultation, actually.
Yeah. Right, great, thank you for that.
Councillor Leonard.
Oh.
Hilary, I just seem to have a slightly different recollection that this has come up a number of times, at least this term. Do you have any recollection of how many times you've actually brought this to council per chance?
I've got 3 workshops, and they were also discussed at a council meeting in October 2024 in combination with the future development strategy.
Thank you. Can I just ask a completely separate question? Just with another hat involved in schooling in Taupō, does this classification for Māori land free up the opportunity for kura kaupapa? So you mentioned kohangas, but I was doing some comparison across the country, and I didn't realise that our kura was just about at its capacity, that there was kind of no more capacity there. And aside from hirangi, those are the only 2 options that we actually have for that type of schooling, should somebody choose to do that. So would this classification actually enable that, should people want to?
Yes.
Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, well, look, you mentioned this evaluation report. It's here in front of me. Alternatives such as planning overlays, alternatives, which page would I find the alternatives to doing multi-purpose zones altogether?
Section 7 of your section 32 looks at alternatives. We haven't looked at overlays because overlays generally operate for sections like our natural hazards, our natural environment sections of the plan. When there is a specified zone that has been, I know it's not mandatory, but it is set out as one of the zones that we that are included in the menu of zonings. That is the direction that the National Planning Standards points us in.
I mean, it's not the. I mean, that's. I mean, government points us all sorts of directions, but it doesn't mean we have to take them. I'm just. These are guidelines. I'm just pointing that out. Yeah, well, I mean, I can only point out that this may have popped up notionally a handful of times, and from what I can make out, there has been a lot of work put into it over time. It's just that I don't believe it's been presented here very much at all for discussion.
Councillor
I can't say any
Williamson.
more than that.
Councillor Williamson.
Oh.
Thank you, Hilary. Councillor Campbell obviously has just admitted, he admitted to us he doesn't expect it to have to be read everything, which is quite evident. I just want to go back to, obviously, perhaps give some context, going back to the 2009 JMA signed by previous, back the Mayor and the Council at the time, publicly and celebrated and endorsed the mana whenua of the time to do self-determination. So I just wanted to give some context there. This is not a new sort of thing to celebrate. It's actually something just enacting, giving Māori people a chance to actually develop the land in the way they see fit. Thank you.
Councillor Lachlan.
Yeah, just a bit disappointed that Councillor Campbell hasn't been attending those workshops or paying attention. Just note too that some of these comments of his, basically all that's sending a signal to the community is build more houses at 5 Mile Bay.
Right. Anything else, Hilary? Any other commentary? Last one, Councillor Campbell.
Well, I've got one last question on the Māori purpose zone, but I do have a handful of things on the rest of it, if I can. Well, my last question on this is, okay, I mean, this is going out to public consultation, that's something. How will this be framed? Because I'm sort of hearing is that it's something we just got to do, and we can't really do anything else. I would like to hear it if it's being put to the public, as in this is one of the things we can do, because it is not mandatory. There are some other things we could be doing, but here's the disadvantages and advantages. I mean, that is the way I would like to hear it framed to the public, please.
So just to clarify, this is the we've done a round of pre-consultation on the multi-purpose zone. It's already been out and available.
Pre-consultation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting term. I haven't come across that before.
We use that in relation to the Resource Management Act, because once we get to the first schedule process, it's a formal process that we have to follow. It's prescribed under the RMA, and we've got very little ability to deviate from what the first schedule says. So we do a pre-consultation phase where we put out the draft plan changes and we seek feedback on the draft plan changes, and then we can still manipulate and change those plan changes around as much as we like before we get into the first schedule process, which is quite a prescribed process.
So can that happen?
It's already happened.
No, sorry. The message to the public, when this does get consulted, I would like to hear that it is not being put out as this is just something we got to do and there's nothing else we could be doing. This is one thing we could be doing. There's some other stuff we could be doing too, but here are the pros and cons of each.
So when you notify a plan change under the RMA, you have to give the proposed chapter or section of the plan as you propose it to be worded. The community has the ability to submit on both the plan change and the section 32. So there would be the opportunity for the public to disagree or submit against or for the section 32 and the alternatives that were presented within that.
Oh, I see. So it's not what I'm saying at all. It's like, here's what we propose, you tell us what you think. That's exactly what it is, isn't it? Here's their proposed draft. That's how it's going to go. And you tell us, sorry, the public will tell us, give us feedback. That's it.
We're required to notify a draft, or sorry, a proposed chapter.
So Shepherd?
I've got it. We're going.
I just had one last thing. Do you think it would not be, okay, you'll have the document going out there. I still think that some informational sheets about, well, for this item anyway, would be useful to put out to explain why these are a preferred solution as opposed to some of the things that we could do. It wouldn't be part of the draft itself, but it would be informational attachments, if you like. That's what I am suggesting, requesting. For this part of it anyway.
Councillor Shepherd?
I mean, I'm sure you do little explanatory notes. You don't just give everyone 100 pages.
Yeah.
I thought I sought some clarification earlier, but perhaps in light of recent questioning, shall we just confirm again that we actually aren't entirely sure what we'd be consulting on because we haven't had ministerial approval yet?
No, we're seeking approval to notify the attachments that you have attached in your documentation, subject to the approval of the government. So they're not going to tell us what we should and shouldn't change in that. They're just going to say yes or no, you've got an exemption to be able to continue on with notification.
Councillor Taylor?
Oh, okay, just supplementary to that. So when you said it might be approved in part or not at all?
Sorry, that meant that they may pick and choose one or more plan changes rather than parts of a plan change.
From that then, we will be better informed on what it is we're going out to consult on at that point, won't we? Yeah. It's a bit of work to do before we know that. A bit of a process to go through before we know fully what it is we're consulting on. Or if we're consulting at all, because we may not get the exemption. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Taylor?
I mean, it's more of a comment than a question. So this suite of plan changes is no different to the last suite that we did. You have to have something to consult on, which means a lot of work has to happen beforehand. You can't simply go out for consultation with, I've got a good idea, but I'm not sure what it is. What do you think? And that's just plain stupid. And I look in the attachments, there are 588 pages of stuff that's going to be consulted on. The last set of consultation was broad. I sat as one of the commissioners, as did Councillor Westerman on that, and there were hearings, and it's a very long-winded, very detailed process, and I note in the audience there are at least two very senior planners in the public gallery today who had significant input into that. This is a totally transparent, totally public, very long-winded, very detailed process, at the end of which it's brought back to Council to approve or not. I actually don't see what the difficulty is here. The first hurdle is the minister's sign-off. If we don't get that, this whole conversation is mute. If we do get that, then we go forward with full, open, public consultation. I'm struggling to find what the problem is, other than a lack of understanding of a very simple process.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. All right.
Through the chair, that's interesting, Councillor Taylor. Yeah, that's an interesting take on it. I'm simply pointing out that the practical options have not been explored in this table, but to carry on what I was just trying to get to say before, I'm sure we're not just going to throw a 500-page document at people and say, here, have a look. I'm sure there will be some informational summaries in there to at least give a heads up of what it's about. So I'm suggesting for the Māori zone wards, Māori purpose zones, sorry, that some information, because they're not going to find it in that, I don't think, very easily, information as to why this is the best option and why other options mightn't work. So I'll leave it at that one, but if I can ask a couple of other comments for the benefit of anyone listening anyway, because, I mean, the focus has been on these Māori purpose zones. I mean, they're pretty minor compared to the rest of it, but just on these Plan Change 44 residential zones, I know we have had this come across us a number of times. I mean, I'll just point out that the increased density rules don't seem very noticeable to me compared to, say, what people are seeing in Auckland or even Rotorua. So I think we're being quite conservative, but just for the sake of the average Joe out there, what change do you think will be most noticeable in, say, suburban Taupō for some of the residential development that happens in this?
So first, just to respond to the fact that the intensification looks different in Taupō compared to some of the major cities, because we don't have a high density residential zone. The most noticeable difference is the provision for comprehensive housing developments. So at the moment, a developer could only put 3 dwellings on a site, irrespective of the site size. Through Plan Change 44, there is a consenting pathway with reduced opportunity for notification, more relaxed building controls, so that multiple housing can be developed on single sites, subject to some design criteria to ensure that it integrates with the existing environment too. So it's about balancing, creating more opportunities for housing with existing amenity.
So hold on, just put simply, it might happen, okay, if we'll repeat what you just said just now, it might happen quicker than it did before, but it's not going to look so significantly different visually compared to, say, Auckland, when you've got these little squeezed in triple high. Yeah, we're not going to have that. So visually, noticeably, we're not having double the intensity as...
Yes, that is true. Through pre-consultation, we identified that a big barrier for developers in intensification is breaching performance standards, which then leads to notification and the requirement for neighbours' approval. So just simply by relaxing those performance standards and removing the requirement for notification, will respond to that concern from the development community and make the process easier for developers.
Councillor Taylor.
Sorry, I get it, but these are detailed questions which are best left to the end of the process or part of the consultation process. You're jumping to what it might look like. We haven't even got the minister's sign-off yet. There is a process to work through. Sorry, but the questions are jumping right to the end of that with so much detail. It's actually not going to advance this agenda item. This is about us approving this in principle, that it goes to the minister, who then may or may not sign it off, and then it goes out for a full, robust and lengthy public consultation, where all the options are on the table. Again, it's a simple process. I just fail to see what the problem is.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Taylor. I just thought it would have been educational for someone listening, but I do have one other question.
One other quick question, please, and that's it.
Open space zones. I was actually quite interested that we haven't had these designations around actually, and I suppose just a couple of things. I was just curious actually. I mean, most other cities do have these open space zones, but we haven't. What has that stopped us doing or not doing without them? I mean, if we've got away with it so long, I'm just interested.
Yeah, so our open spaces have sat within the zone that they sit within, so majority would be residential. So a couple of things. It will have meant that at times we may have had to, as a council, apply for consents which were a perfectly acceptable activity within open space, but they didn't meet the residential provisions. Secondly, again, driven by the national planning standards, which supply a menu of zones, and these 3 zones within the open space category. One of them is sport and recreation, which obviously, so that's all our sports grounds, Owen Delaney, all those types of activities. So that's quite a different use to, for example, a area of bush that is a reserve. So it's split it up to allow for purpose-built provisions for each of those activities. So an example in the sport and rec area, which again, they will be, most of them will be residential at the moment, that a lot of those won't be actually meeting our vehicle movement provisions under the district plan, because they have hundreds of cars turning up every weekend or after school every night. So this sets them up so that they are they meet the purpose of open space and what you expect to be happening in those areas.
Councillor Greenslade.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hilary. I have read through the 588 pages, and huge amount of work, time, effort and energy has gone into it, and it is a very, very interesting document. I think the public can take some comfort in the clarification from Councillor Shepherd that this is going to go to public consultation. Can you please tell me what is the start date for your 90 days that you have to apply for your exemption?
It's already started, so the Act came into force last week. So I can't tell you the exact day that ends, but it sort of takes us to the end of the year, I believe.
And do you have any time frame on when do you expect to hear back within that 90-day period?
They probably weren't making any commitments on that when we spoke to them yesterday. They believe they will be receiving a large number of exemption applications. We are hopeful that they will not wait till the end of the period and that they will process them as they receive them, and we are pretty much ready to go with lodging our exemption application once if we get our approval from you today.
Thank you, Councillor Greenslade. All right, we need to move on, I think.
To the chair?
And Kylie? Okay, one last one from Councillor Campbell and then Kylie. Councillor Leonard.
Well, I'll stick to the one I'm most curious about. Open space zones, I was carrying on from that. It's struck me, maybe you can't answer this one, but it struck me that Taupō District has a lot of them. It has quite a lot of them, and they cost money to maintain and keep going. Has it seriously been considered to sell off a bunch of it that we don't really need? Because I'm sure we don't need it all.
I think it's a simple answer. No?
Not under the district plan changes, no.
Councillor Leonard, please.
I've got two parts to this, Hilary. I'd just like to clarify. At the start of this term, we came and we challenged you guys that we wanted to make things simpler for people to progress, and we asked you to look at plans and parts of those plans that we were getting many, many consent applications through, and how could we tweak what we had to do what we had. And if I recall correctly, which I would just like to clarify, that this was the way to do it, but that there is due process that has to occur, including consultation, so on and so forth. I feel like today it's being alluded to that this might be very new information to us, but I'm recalling at least 12 times in my mind, and if you're able to clarify that any further, I think my number is probably wrong, but that we have actually had discussions and workshops on these topics. Could you just clarify those couple of points for me, please?
Yeah, so as we were completing the first schedule process on the first bundle, we also started you off on the second bundle of these plan changes. So you are correct that there's been an overlap. We didn't just finish one and then start the other. We've been working on the second bundle of plan changes for a good couple of years in the background while we finished the first one. And correct, we've been to you a number of times, both informally and formally, to update you on the progress of where these are at.
Okay, thank you, Hilary, and thank you, Crystal. I think that's about it.
I'm happy to move.
Get 1, 2, and 3 and 4. Thank you. So it's been moved to the recommendation. You happy to second? Okay. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you, Hilary, and thank you, Crystal, for your time today and the comprehensive report. All those in favour, please say aye. As against, carried. Thank you. Right, next up we have item 5.2, Taupō District Council Performance Report for July 2025. Julie, good afternoon, Madam CEO.
Good afternoon, councillors, Your Worship and councillors. This report marks the beginning of the financial year, so there's a slight difference in terms of some of the sections around the information as we begin July, which is the new financial year. In terms of the intro, you can see there's a couple of things that we highlighted in terms of announcements from central government, ironically, around the RMA and the Systems Improvement Bill, and of course July is the beginning of the pre-election period, so there's some work in the team for us preparing for that and for post-elections. As per normal, the exec team are here to happy to answer any questions on that sections, and we have Panel and some of her team here to answer questions on the strategic project section as well. So thank you, councillors.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you very much. Any questions of Julie before we get underway with Panel and Travis? Good afternoon, team. Okay. We'll go straight into your report, Panel. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So we're presenting 22 significant projects today. It's the first, chunky project report for this financial year, and you'll note we've got 7 new projects. For those of you involved in risk and assurance, we'll go into a deep dive of some of the risks associated with those. But I guess today we've seen a marked take-up in the number of projects that are out there in the community, specifically in some of the wider areas. We've got the Omori Kuruto Slip project that's just joined on, the Turangi Master Plan, the Tauhara Crown and Tauhara AC Bards roundabouts, which Travis and Up are going to give you a quick update on. The Taupō Wastewater Treatment Plant Program, which is obviously going to be reported on for quite some time as we change the wastewater treatment plant activities. The district-wide digital metering or smart metering project, Kinloch Low Zone Reservoir and Centennial Compliance Upgrade. There's going to be 3 projects that have obviously moved off since last month as they've no longer reported. We've got View Road Land Disposal, Primary Clarifier 3, which is now part of the wastewater treatment plant program, and Tapawai Haruru erosion control. And we'll come back to reporting on that when we've got some forward movement. Just an administrative note, for those of you who were comparing last month to this month, we've got a bit of a change in terms of the algorithm behind the overall status. So you're going to see a few more ambers in the overall. Basically, if you've got 1 amber and 2 greens in the time, cost and scope, we're taking a slightly more conservative approach, and that provides an overall amber. So you'll see there's been a couple of projects where the time, cost, scope haven't actually changed, but it gives you an overall rating of amber. So really, any questions on those projects?
Any questions of Panel? Or Travis? No?
I'm going to hand over to Travis now for anyone who has a question perhaps on the roundabouts. He's just going to give you a little update on the location timeline.
Taharipa Road one, is it?
Yep. So at the time of writing this report, we were in a tender process. That tender has now been awarded. Things are moving pretty quickly because we have a goal of trying to complete this by Christmas if we can. So the contract's been awarded. The construction starts on the 15th of September at the intersection of Crown Taharapa. From there, we will then move on to the intersection of AC Baz Ave and Tauhara Road. And once we've completed there, we'll be back to do a reseal, which has been serendipitous, I guess, that we had that reseal in there. So now we're going to be able to reseal a section of Taharapa Road at the same time as this contract. So that will be the last thing to happen. The program technically runs until the end of January, but we have a Best Endeavors program to finish prior to Christmas, so as to not leave open construction sites over the holiday period. But as you've probably heard me say before when presenting, of course, this stuff is all weather dependent and things going our way. But that is our goal.
Much inconvenience to the shops on Taharipa?
We've put special conditions into our contract around working hours to ensure that those shops have the least amount of disruption as possible, although accepting this is, I guess, a significant enough transport project that there will be some disruption, but yeah, we have factored that into our contract.
That's the old story. They know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and we've
Yep.
engaged the community engagement team, have been doing door knocking and letters, and will continue to do so. We've kind of done a preliminary bit of it going in, letting people know it was happening. Now that we have a program, we'll be revisiting that thing, those discussions as well, as we kind of know more as we work through it. So we
Yeah.
have someone dedicated.
Good. It's not only the shops, of course, there's a lot of residential there too, isn't there?
Yeah,
of course?
residential, there'll be driveways impacted during certain portions of work.
Okay.
So it's just, it's the nature of the game.
Yeah. I think the end result is going to be eagerly looked forward to, I can assure you. Was there questions? No? Councillor Westman.
Thanks, Travis. I'm thinking about the school up there as well, and will that involve a detour, or will they be able to let traffic through on that intersection while they're working on it?
So there's different stages of the work, some of which is done under a shoulder closure, some of which is done under a lane closure, and then when they're doing the asphalting, especially in the middle, there will be a full intersection closure for both roundabouts at the time of their construction. And yes, there will be detours in place. We've actually had the primary schools, Taupō Police, St. John's, Transit, all involved in the discussions to date, so they're aware of what's going on. Plus, obviously we have those. They're on our contact list for stakeholders, and through any traffic management plan that you submit, it goes out to, I guess, the big players when it comes to traffic management. But yes, that's another reason why we have someone specifically dealing with the stakeholder component of this.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
Through the chair, yeah. Is that figure right? The 2.5 million. I thought I read it in the newspaper. It was more than that for both of them. Or did you know? Do you know the article? There was an article in the local paper 2 or 3 weeks ago. I thought the figure was larger than that. But that's the right figure for both of them.
That is the amount of budget that was put into the long-term plan. However, the procurement has come back. We will come in under that budget to complete the works. Obviously, for commercial sensitivity, I can't give prices out, but it will be under that budget, certainly.
No, I mean, I'll just comment. It seems like a lot of money for two locations like that, and I'm talking from experience when I used to run budgets building these sort of things. I suppose a question could be, how do you know you're getting the best value you could be?
Our procurement policy dictated we ran an open procurement process.
Oh, no, I don't mean here's the design, give us a price. I mean, how do you know that you're getting the best value designs? I mean, concrete costs concrete, asphalt is asphalt, but there are ways of doing things like roundabouts that you can do them cheaper. How do you got someone to design it? Sorry, what was a consultant? Was it wasn't Opus? Was it?
Matanga was our designer.
Yes. No. Okay.
Did you want to answer that, or I see you champion at the bit there?
Through the chair, if I don't mind me jumping in here, obviously at this moment we're discussing the performance report, and I don't really think it's the appropriate space to go down to that level of detail. As Travis has indicated, we go through a procurement process. We use qualified engineers when we do this planning. So as we do, we've got panels, we've got qualified staff on those, qualified consultants, etc. So that's the way we operate all of our business, whether it be in infrastructure or elsewhere.
Thank you, Tony. Okay.
So I thought that was a pertinent time to ask these questions, and as far as I know, I haven't come across as Matanga as producing oodles of traffic designs that I'm aware. But next detailed question is, I have looked at the safety order, and I know there were some issues brought up. The one I could tell straight away was the the speed control on the Crown Road one. I mean, I noticed there was a suggestion in the audit of how to do it, but I don't agree with that suggestion. But have you responded? Have you responded to that audit with some solutions yet, or?
Yep. So, as part of the safety audit, the safety auditor looks at a number of things with the pure safety lens on top of it. So it's council's job as officers and designers to factor in other considerations as far as residential noise, traffic flows and things like that. So yes, we have responded to all the safety things in there. So we would have accepted some of them and made design changes. There's some that we would have balanced with other stakeholder needs and settled on a final design.
Okay. Thank you, Travis. Okay, thank you, Travis. Any other final comments, Pernell?
No, just to say thank you. It's always great to have your support out there on Project Land, and yeah, obviously we're always happy to answer your questions on the ground.
Cool. Very good. Keep those works happening. Thank you very much, team. Final words from Julie? No?
Nothing further from me to add. Just again, congratulations on the CapEx program for the year. Thanks, Mel.
Thank you, guys.
Through the chair.
Yes, Councillor Williamson.
I just want to acknowledge the interim report on the TL fund. Congratulate the stewardship of CEO and Sarah Matthews and Forsyth Bar and the growth of their TL fund. It's actually astonishing. I know there's 34% international equities, but I'm sure that perhaps a lot of people are not widely aware of that in the community. If they took care to read the agendas, they may be, but sometimes out there in the moment it's not happening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williamson. Good point. Good point. Good to see that increasing. Right. Okay. You're finished, Julie. Okay. So we have a recommendation there that we accept the report, the information contained. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Shepherd, and seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you. Right, that's the end. Oh no, Councillor engagements, 5.3. Shaney, good afternoon, Shaney.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Councillors. One change to note, which is the start time of the Tongariro Representative Group meeting taking place on Wednesday next week, 3rd of September. It was to start at 1 p.m, but will now start at 3 p.m. Other than that, I'm not aware of any other changes to the list. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shaney. Any queries of Shaney regarding the engagements? No. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Seconded by Councillor Lachlan. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against, carried. Okay, that is the end of the public part of the meeting. And now we'll move into confidence. Could I have a mover into confidence, please? Thank you, Councillor Lachlan, seconded by Councillor Westerman. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against, carried. Thank you.